So are these fears about Narendra Modi as India's Prime Minister real or exaggerated? Let me take that question first to Dr. Abhishek Singhvi of the Congress Party. Dr. Singhvi, has, in a sense, this election through this entire campaign now become a referendum on Narendra Modi? A sort of a one-man personality-driven campaign that is, you're with him or against him? In effect, with Sonia Gandhi's appeal last night, the pitch has been raised even further.
I think Mr. Modi wants it that way. Mr. Modi wants to think that in the BJP itself, for example, and in the whole country, it's either Modi or no one else. But that's certainly not the way the system of parliament in our country or elections is structured. And let me tell you, I think it is worse than tilting in windmills. What has Sonia Gandhi said? We have been saying it for 125 years. What she has said is the idea of India is not understood by people like BJP, RSS, VHP, whose philosophical masters are Hegdewar and Golwalkar, and whose current master and pretender to be is Modi. They have a divisive philosophy. Therefore, all those who believe in India and the idea of India must prevent the division of secular vote. What is this? Is this some kind of a new thing we are saying? And we say it to Hindus, to Christians, to Muslims, to minorities, to Parsis, to Jains. We say it to our adversaries and to our allies. According to me, it is absolutely amazing that Mr. Modi has the gall and the cheek to talk of television advertisement time, a person who symbolizes and is the alter ego of crony capitalism and the biggest splurge and splash of fake and make-believe advertisement to create an ambience, an aura, is talking of advertisements. And who is attacking, taunting, sloganeering, berating, abusing every day? It is Mr. Modi. It is his campaign which is personalized. He has only three things in his speeches: rhetoric, shoot and scoot, big slogans, or an attack on Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi or other members of the Congress. That's all.
The criticism is this scaremongering by the Congress party? Are you in a sense, when you're talking about autocratic forces, do you not have enough faith in India's democratic processes and institutions? After all, if Mr. Modi was to become PM tomorrow, he would be democratically elected. This is a democratic country. Do you really believe there are not enough checks and balances in the system then? If your worst fears
really are there? This is an election campaign. Just in case the BJP has forgotten, this is an election campaign going on in the world's largest democracy. And it's our duty in a democracy to point out to the would-be electors that the would-be person who's pretending to be wanting to be Prime Minister is somebody who should be shunned for a variety of reasons. And I want to say this, Nidhi, none of the people whose names you mentioned who are signatories, of course, it's a different matter, they are the pride of India globally. They are people who could in their own right get Bharat Ratnas, Nobel Prize winners and Padma Vibhushans. None of these people are those who have anything to do with anything other than totally, fiercely independent thinking. And if independent thinkers, which have nothing to do with politics, can say what they have said in writing, well, I think it is time for Indians to get up and take notice. I can scarcely accept the BJP, each of which is falling over the other in what is known as starry-eyed Modi-itis, because they can't survive unless they sing five stutis.
I'm going to take that
to Har Har Modi. Pinky. But what about these great people, the eminent independent people?
Okay, so
can the BJP spokespeople simply belittle them?
Okay, so
by trivia comments?
Let me take that point to them that, Pinky Anand, the Congress aside, the fact that you have now intellectuals both in India and abroad in separate appeals talked about the dangers they believe of Narendra Modi coming to power. Is the BJP going to be dismissive of that? Because these are people, not all of whom are politically inclined one way or the other.
Nidhi, it's very easy to say that they are not politically inclined by speaking on the outside, A. And B, suddenly the timing of this entire correspondence, which is suddenly the intellectuals have woken up to make this point, is rather tallying with the speech. Just a minute, the point remains, the timing is rather peculiar, right in the middle of elections. Suddenly these statements are coming. I mean, they could well have been targeted much before. This is not the first time that Modi ji is leading the campaign of the BJP. Thirdly, the entire statement of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, which came in yesterday, which of course is taking over because Mr. Rahul Gandhi has been unable to make any success, and Dr. Singhvi's statement to say that there is targeting of Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. I mean, here today the NDTV polls are showing exactly where the situation is. You are having 275 for the BJP and the NDA, clearly much above the majority mark that is required to make the government. This is the position, and as far as the Congress is concerned, all that they can do is try and target Modi ji, and as far as anything else is concerned, this entire fear psychosis which is attempted to be developed by the Congress and trying to keep the minority community in line with them. And how long is this going to continue?
So you see it as clear out and out scaremongering?
Absolutely.
I'm going to take that question to Kumar Ketkar. Kumar Ketkar, how do you see this? Is this an election, according to you, that is now become a referendum on Narendra Modi? And do you believe that this is scaremongering, or that these are justified fears?
Well, actually, unfortunately, it has become a referendum on Narendra Modi, and the scaremongering that is going on is absolutely right. It is because the scare is genuine and real. Those who have visited Gujarat, not only in 2002, I don't want to refer to 2002, even after that, know how difficult it is to go to villages and actually conduct surveys. It was impossible to locate or trace his wife even. So the question is not whether scaremongering is true. If you look at the assembly, Gujarat assembly records, you will find that Narendra Modi hardly ever consults assembly, discusses issues in assembly, the issues are passed. He controls 9 ministries himself, and that is a so-called single window. And if this is not autocracy, I don't understand what autocracy is. That is point number 1. Point number 2, why scaremongering is, the fear is absolutely justified, is because we have seen what Amit Shah has done to UP and how he has tried to consolidate the Hindu vote vis-a-vis Muslim vote, and how the so-called secular people have fallen prey to that. Unfortunately, the secular forces in the country were not adequately united, were not adequately aware, were not adequately alerted, and that's why this scaremongering has started, but the scare is absolutely justified.
Okay, very strong words there from you, Mr. Ketkar. I'm going to take this question to Zafar Sareshwala, a leading Muslim businessman who has in fact spoken very favorably about Mr. Modi in all these years. Mr. Sareshwala, when you hear what Mr. Ketkar says in particular, saying he's talked about the fears of Mr. Modi's autocratic style, as he calls it, about the kind of utterances that Amit Shah has been making, which are hugely controversial in Uttar Pradesh. Does that not worry you just a little bit?
No, not at all. Actually, I have also been visiting Gujarat. My business takes me to remotest parts of Gujarat. I have been traveling, and there is absolutely no fear. In fact, the Muslims are fearless. And I'll tell you, this scaremongering will not work at all. Any party. Because, see, we are living in 21st century. This election is 2014. These elections now are going to more and more fought on real issues. And what are the issues for Muslims or for Hindus? The issues are same. The Muslims and the Hindus both want education, they want jobs, they want progress, they want development, they want infrastructure. I mean, these are the real issues. And people will base their voting pattern on somebody who can give them or who's in the capacity of giving them. So I don't think this kind of scaremongering will work at all. And you know, as you were referring about those intellectuals, I mean, you know, that is one set of intellectuals. But Mr. Modi also has a set of intellectuals who support him. So now on the 16th of May, दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाएगा. So these issues will not work at all. And I'll tell you, Nidhi, I've been traveling across the country. I don't find any polarization between Hindus and the Muslims. The polarization, the real polarization which exists in our country is between the rich and the poor, between the educated and the uneducated, between the people who have jobs and people who don't have jobs. I mean, this is the real polarization. And somebody who can bridge this kind of polarization will be in the capacity to rule.
What Amit Shah has been saying in UP, Mr. Sareshwala? Are you not at all uncomfortable by what Mr. Amit Shah, who is Mr. Modi's closest aide, and the kind of campaign he's been running there in UP?
I'm not at all, because see, these kind of rhetorics by politicians doesn't mean anything. I mean, even to the voter. Either way, there is another kind of rhetoric which, you know, the Salman Khurshid of the world have been saying. He's been saying that we'll give you 9% reservation. So what is the difference between the rhetoric of Amit Shah and the rhetoric of Salman Khurshid of the world?
Okay,
I mean,
Abhishek Singhvi has a question for you before I come to
rhetoric, and it will not work at all. People will judge. People will judge on basis of real issues only.
Okay, so Zafar Sareshwala, Abhishek Singhvi says this is not about Hindu-Muslim polarization. This election is about issues, and everyone cares about the same issues.
Let's step back, Nidhi, for a moment. It's unfortunate. Mr. Modi and the BJP have practiced this to a fine art. They have always a few ornamental minorities speaking for them. I don't think Mr. Zafarwala should pretend not to be in politics. He has spoken enough about Mr. Modi and the BJP that he should declare his political interest directly.
Listen to me, Mr. Sanghvi, don't get personal. I am not here as a Muslim. Are you there as a Hindu? Are you there as a Hindu, Mr. Sanghvi?
Can I complete, please?
No, Mr. Sanghvi, don't call me ornamental Muslim. I am not here as a Muslim.
Let me complete.
I am here as Zafar Sareshwala. As much as you are as Abhishek Singhvi. Don't call this Hindu Muslim thing. Are you there as a Hindu?
1 minute.
Mr. Sareshwala.
No.
Mr. Zafar.
Please don't use these phrases. We have seen enough of these phrases from you. I am here as Zafar Sareshwala, an individual and Indian. Don't call me a minority ornament.
Right. Have you finished now? I think, Nidhi, that my remark has gone home 110%. Now, if he doesn't have the courage to listen,
you call
then it's his problem.
Hindu, then
don't interrupt me.
Are you a
Please
Hindu?
don't interrupt me, please now.
Mr. Sareshwala, let him finish.
Please don't interrupt me. Have the courage to listen.
How can I listen to crap?
Please
You'll
have
get a chance
the courage.
to rebut him. Let him make his point.
Please have a courage to listen.
Yes.
Mr. Zafar has participated in innumerable programs speaking directly in favor of Mr. Modi. 2 minutes ago, he spoke for the entire Muslim minority community. And he now is taking umbrage at being pointed out that there are enough people in the community which outnumber him. 1 second. You spoke for your community 2 minutes ago. Rewind the tape and see it. Now, there are enough people out there of your community. Out of your community, the persons who hate the politics and the idea of India of Mr. Modi outnumber you 1,000 to 1. Please have the courage to understand that. And please declare your political interest before you speak as if you are an independent commentator. And before you berate those people who have signed those, I am not making that. I am not making that. I am not.
Okay.
I am not. What I am saying is only this. I am only saying this. That to pander.
First you call yourself a Hindu. First you call yourself
a
Hindu first.
But Mr. Modi does. I don't, but Mr. Modi does.
Okay, I'm going to
I don't, but Mr. Modi does. I am a proud Hindu, but I don't practice the Hindus of Mr. Modi.
Kiran Bedi.
I don't practice the Hindus of Mr. Modi.
No.
Kiran Bedi, how do you look at how, you can see here how heated this debate becomes when it comes to Mr. Modi. Do you believe that the discourse has become alarmist? Or that there is something that maybe the BJP and Mr. Modi need to take note of? Why is he perceived, to be of a certain type of leader? Is he autocratic? Is it because he hasn't expressed enough regret for what has happened in the past? Do you think there are lessons that can be learned from there, or do you feel it's alarmist?
Nidhi, it is alarming for whom the status quo is changing. It is very alarming because one thing is certain, that the current government is not going to come back to power. That's certain. Nobody can question that because nobody wants the lost 10 years again. They don't want to lose another 5 years. One thing is certain, across the country, it's baying for change. It's calling for change. Change for what? Change against the current government, and now choosing another change and another national party which is on the horizon, which is being clearly well led, which is clearly giving its vision, which clearly is opening its policies. So people are now voting for a change. I'm telling you, it's very surprising. After you called me, I was at that time in the university, and I want to show you certain papers. These are questions which came from the youth in a university. I was speaking. Do you know what? And I've just shown them to Pragya, who's with me in the room. These questions are of concerned youth, Muslim and Hindu and Christians. They're all questioning the vote bank regime. And they are saying, and they're laughing at certain politicians who are considering certain people as their vote banks. So therefore, and you know what? The first question is by a Muslim. I don't want to read the language. It is so tough on certain people who made very bad statements in Uttar Pradesh. So one thing is certain. It is alarming for people who are going to lose control. And one of the biggest control losers would be the dynasty. People are now going to vote dynasty. They're voting for a democratic party, and they're willing to risk it. They're willing to risk because now the choices between reason versus rhetoric, control versus choices, deprivation versus privileges. And I think these intellectuals who you're talking about, to my mind, they're all individually a letter to the editor. They are not representing. I've shown you certain things and I'm going to show them, give them to Pragya also if you want. These are the letters. This is all letters. These individual intellectuals, the so-called intellectuals, they may be intellectuals according to their own mind, according to their own belief, but they have no following. They're all single letters to the editor. The country today is looking for development.
Okay.
They're looking for infrastructure.
Ma'am, I'm
they're
going
looking
to
for
take the
progress.
points that
They're
you
looking
raised.
for jobs. They're not looking for vote
Okay,
banks.
I'm going to take the points that you raised to Professor Mushirul Hasan, who is one of the intellectuals that you were attacking there. And Swapan Das Gupta in a recent piece actually also attacked the intellectuals who've been going after Mr. Modi, saying that part of the reason that you're also uncomfortable with Narendra Modi is because of his outsider status. He's not one of us. He's come from the outside. You know, he doesn't have that same social importance, and intellectuals like yourself fear the loss of your own social importance. That's what Swapan Das Gupta argues. Professor Hasan, what would you say to those who believe your fears are alarmist?
Well, Swapan is free to hold his opinion,
I'll give you the
but
copies.
normally public intellectuals are attacked whenever a controversy of this kind emerges on the political scene. From my point of view, the alarming factor is not, of course, that Modi has jumped into the fray and could well be a prime ministerial candidate. But the alarming fact is that in Gandhi's India and in Nehru's India, there are serious attempts made to legitimize the political activities of a man whose record is very well known and whose rhetoric and whose pronouncements in public are against the spirit of the Constitution. It is not just the Muslim factor, it's not just communalism, which of course will be inflamed should the BJP come into power, and that has been the case for a very long time. But it's the fact that that this rhetoric is simply goes against the grain. It is simply not consistent with the political structures that we have created in this country. And that is really the alarming fact. The alarming fact is that Mrs. Kiran Bedi, you know, finds some kind of justification
May I ask, sir, what is it in the rhetoric that alarms you? And the reason I ask that is that those who criticize intellectuals and historians like yourself will say, well, if you look at the BJP manifesto, it focuses largely on development and governance. You have one line on the Ram Temple on page 41. When you see Mr. Modi's own speeches and public rallies and public meetings, he's also focused largely on a development agenda. However, what Mr. Amit Shah says in UP is very different, and that is certainly worrying. So what is it in his rhetoric that you find is against the Constitution?
It's communal, it's anti-Muslim, it's anti-Constitution.
Which part of it is? I mean, I don't understand the question of saying the statement without any basis, without any background.
Let him finish. I want to know what
I don't have
is it the lack of regret for the past? Is it a lack of regret?
And I cannot forget what happened in Gujarat. Whether he was responsible for the massacre or not is I don't really know. I'm not holding him or his colleagues responsible. But the fact of the matter is that Gujarat has to be a reference point. Has to be a reference point when we discuss Modi. Likewise, the assassination of Gandhi has to be a reference point.
Yeah.
If we are talking about the RSS and the Jan Singh. So you can't just tear something apart